Welcome back, guys, to another video and my channel. This is going to be still about the NFL draft, and we're going to go back into the NFL-centric coverage of this channel. We'll be having some MCU and some TV show reviews coming up soon. We're going to be doing all sorts of stuff, keep you guys, grinded, informed, all of that on this channel, and I'm excited. I've gone through the entire NFL draft once again. I've gone through and I have literally narrowed all the picks down to 30, which are going to be my top 30 picks in this draft, my favorite picks in this draft. And I'm excited. This is a lot. I put in a lot of work, doing this, to have this, kind of narrow it down. I really had a hard time narrowing from 40 to 30. And I'm not even going to do honorable mentions. We're going to go right into it. Here are my top 30 picks. I guess I'll throw one honorable mention out there. Trey Lance did not make my list. I know for those of you wondering, is it because I'm a Rams fan, I'm not happy that the Niners got him? He was your number one quarterback. How do you not make the list? Well, the Niners traded up before anything happened. They traded up to 3, and they put pressure on everyone else. The problem in doing this is that their impatience to wait until the draft cost them some serious value, in my opinion, in Justin Fields, who actually fell to 11. So I love Trey Lance. He's my number one quarterback, but Justin Fields, for me on my board, didn't fall that far. He came in at number 2 at quarterback and still in that top 5 overall. So because of that, I kind of dock the 49ers a point there. And I know it's crazy because, he was my top quarterback. I love the kid and I'm happy they traded up for him. For them, not exactly happy, but you get my point. It's a good move. I just don't think it's my favorite pick. I think they made a better decision later on. And I do think a lot of their draft picks went into this. So, again, it's hard to give a third overall pick, your favorite. And when you, narrow it down into the top 30, you're going to leave out other picks that people just will disagree with me on. That's okay. That's what we're here for. So, kicking this thing off, we are going to start at pick number 30. And this is going to be the only Rams pick that you see on here. Pick number 30, counting down, we have Concordia St. Paul outside linebacker, Chris Garrett. He was picked 252nd. I did not know about him before the draft. I did not have him graded, but I did my homework, of course. He's 6'3", 243. I was able to watch some film. It's not exactly the easiest to get a hold of his tape, but I was really, really impressed. I came away thinking that this is exactly who you want. Just like I said during the draft, this is exactly who you want in the 7th round. This is a project pick with immense upside. He dominated Division II. I've seen many guys in the past play well in Division II and look a lot better than everyone else, but this guy, it's not even close. He is so much better than the competition he was facing to honestly give you an opportunity to think, this guy could be something. When you look at his insane college production over just 3 seasons, he had 48.5 tackles for loss, 36.5 sacks, and 15 forced fumbles. I love his get off. This guy didn't run super well the 40 time, but he kind of low key reminds me of, I'm going to say it. He kind of reminds me of Leonard Floyd a little bit. I think he's a better pass rusher personally, potential wise, than Leonard Floyd. I do think he has a chance to be a better pass rusher if, say, he gets the best development whatsoever. If he gets the best development and things just work out, I think he can be a great pass rusher. I think he needs to get better in the run defense department, and that's fine. But I'm really liking this pick at 252. The Rams get awesome value here. Sure, he might have been available in priority undrafted rookie free agency, but you also had to bid against all those teams. And it's not like this guy didn't have exposure. He played at the East-West Shrine Games, so teams had tape on him. He is a gem, and a hidden gem, and I do think he's going to end up being one of the best players from this Rams draft class. Moving on, pick number 29. The Vikings decided to go at 157 with Amir Smith-Marsette, who I think complements Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson very well moving forward. This is somebody that can beat you over the top. He can basically be that 50-50 ball guy, but he runs like a gazelle. So you really just made all three receivers, and you have BC Johnson, who you received a couple drafts ago. You have these guys, and they're all relatively interchangeable. Pair that with the fact that they have Irv Smith and Dalvin Cook, and you really have to like what the Vikings have done adding those weapons. We'll talk about them a little bit later because they also made a hell of a pick that I will bring up. But moving on, we're going to go to running back here at pick 28. Again, counting down, guys. This is in order relatively, but again, it's the top 30 picks. So pick 28 is a former Kansas Jayhawk who I had the pleasure of watching for years, Kahlil Herbert. And he actually ended up transferring to Virginia Tech, and he was very impressive, running very well at Virginia Tech. He is very smooth. I compared him to a smoother and more athletic version of Malcolm Brown. He got picked at 217 by the Chicago Bears. And to me, with Tariq Cohen coming off a torn ACL, you look at, obviously, David Montgomery down the line is going to have to get paid. I really like this as a value pick for the Bears. This is somebody that they can groom to be their starter if they lose Montgomery, because Tariq Cohen is not going to be your bell cow. I do really much like what the Bears did here, and so I was a big fan of this pick at 217. Moving on, another great value pick here was Miami's outside linebacker, Quincy Rochet. Look, Rochet, to me, was a top 10 pass rusher, but for whatever reason, he fell to 216. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, who just lost Bud Dupree in free agency, they could have used adding just another guy to go into that rotation. And they're going to get somebody that is a dog, and a guy that, to me, is a plug-and-play guy who can play right away, in a rotation. Look, this is somebody that had the ability, he played at Temple, he transferred Miami, productive player, 6'3", 245. He's a redshirt senior. Again, he's coming from Miami. He didn't have the best hand measurements, arm measurements, whatever you want to call it, but this is somebody, to me, that just was too good to fall the way he did. Very durable, reliable, and like I said, productive. He had 39.5 tackles for loss and 26 sacks just over his 3 years at Temple. And this is one of the better pure pass rushers in this draft. For the Steelers to get one of the better pure pass rushers in this draft at pick 216, when you have TJ Watt and the fact that you have Alex Highsmith from the year prior with Charlotte, I was a big, big, big fan of this, and I'm sure a lot of Steelers fans were as well. Pick 26 here, a little bit of an underdog. Not really many people are talking about him, but it is Kylan Granson out of SMU. And Kylan Granson, to me, is a little bit of an interesting one. I was surprised to see him go because I didn't expect him to get drafted as high. I was very high on him. He was my fourth tight end. I didn't know NFL teams would be, but sure enough, Chris Ballard worked his magic, and he got Carson Wentz, a fun weapon, in round 4 in the 22nd pick at round 4. Look, initially, when you look at what he can do, maybe you're looking at, a 6'1.5", 241 pounder. Maybe you're looking at a guy that's maybe best to play either fullback, or maybe he's just an undersized tight end. But he's not going to have to really do a ton, because I don't think the Colts drafted him to try to develop him into an all-around tight end. This is somebody that runs like a legit wide receiver. He averaged 16 yards per catch at SMU. And to me, the way he runs, he's such a smooth runner, and his ability after the catch, you just can't coach that. You can't teach that. He has things that you simply can't teach. With Carson Wentz, I think he will be a big-time add here in the 4th round. I think he's going to get some playing time. We all know it's hit or miss with rookie tight ends, but I'm a big fan of Kylan Granson moving forward. Next up, we have Ben Cleveland, who is just an absolute monster. the 25th pick in my top 30, and that is Georgia's Ben Cleveland, guard. Ravens added him. Look, I really like what the Ravens are doing here. They're going out. They're getting a stud at guard, a guy that to me is a plug and play. 6'6", 343-pound, athletic specimen. To me, I don't understand how he fell to pick 94. I think he's a lot better than where he was drafted. But either way, the Ravens got a steal, and I thought the Ravens had a pretty good draft. Albeit some of their guys didn't make it, and I know some people would argue that Rashad Bateman was a huge pickup, but I'd also argue that the bigger pickup here is the bigger value, and that is Ben Cleveland, who is going to help you inside the trenches. Cleveland, to me, can take over for a Bradley Bozeman or a Patrick McCarry if they want to play him at center. They have Kevin Zeitler. They added Alejandro Villanueva after the draft, and they have Ronnie Stanley. And all of a sudden, this offensive line looks pretty dang good for having to just trade away their right tackle because he didn't want to play right tackle anymore. That is the Ravens at pick 25. Pick 24, we have Mississippi State running back Kylan Hill going at 256 to the Green Bay Packers. I understand with what people would think here. Okay, why the Packers? The Packers already have Aaron Jones and they have A.J. Dillon. That's great, but they still used A.J. Dillon despite having Aaron Jones last year and, of course, Jamal Williams. I do think the value here is just undeniable. You get one of my 6th overall running back in the draft in Kylan Hill, a guy that I think teams are really sleeping on for him to fall this far, and you're getting him to add him into that group. He's essentially going to replace what A.J. Dillon was last year, or rather earlier in the year, what Jamal Williams was. And to me, I'm a big fan of Kylan Hill because I think he's built well, but I also love his ability to actually use his body. This is somebody that has great contact balance. I think he can help you in the passing game. And when you look at him, 5'10", 214, he's not a slouch. This is somebody that if he came, a year earlier, he might have gone a little bit higher. You can say, he's a downhill back. It's all he is. But again, he's got a really good build. He's got explosive hips. He's somebody that is athletic enough. He will leap over defenders. Doesn't have an issue trying to hurdle. And I think he has a good bit of, short area burst. And he's slippery enough in space to get by tacklers. I like this pick a lot because it was 256. But had they gotten Kylan Hill in like the 4th round, it still probably would have been a good selection. Moving to pick 23, it is Virginia Tech linebacker / safety, and it looks like he's going to play linebacker at the next level, and that is Divine Diablo, who is going over to Vegas to play with the Raiders. Look, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really know who he was early on in the process, but towards the end of the process, I really fell in love with Divine Diablo's game. This is somebody that's 6'3", 226. I feel like he's built very similarly to a Cam Chancellor, a guy that is well known around the league, what he did with the Legion of Boom. But to me, this is somebody, he's drafted in the 3rd round. I wasn't sure if the NFL would be that high on him, but I love it because I think he has amazing size and length, and I think he can play your safety. I think he can be a pseudo linebacker. I think he offers so much. He's physical, and he's going to take tight ends out of the game. He's very physical. He can cover. He's got a wide radius. This guy's a freak. And when it comes to freaks, when you have guys already on that roster, you added Trayvon Merrick, the round prior. And of course, you have a guy, in the fact you get Jonathan Abram. You also got Carl Joseph back in the offseason. I like what the Raiders are doing. Now, they may play Diablo at linebacker, and it does look like they might with Corey Littleton and Nick Kwiatkowski, but I really like what the Raiders did here in getting Diablo at pick 143. Love the value. I was a lot higher on him than some others, and this pick was awesome. Now, moving on, we have pick 22, and that is Stanford wide receiver Simifahoko going at pick 179 to the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys already have immense talent at the wide receiver spot. When you look at the fact that their third receiver is arguably CeeDee Lamb or Michael Gallup, it really tells you all you need to know. Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. Now you add Simifahoko, who tested very well. He's got great size, around 6'3", 6'4". He carries his weight well, around 220 pounds. He played at Stanford. He was a huge target for Davis Mills. To me, this is somebody that has great big play ability. And when you're looking for a top-notch 4, this is like when the Rams had Josh Reynolds back when they had Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp, and Robert Woods, or rather Sammy Watkins, Cooper Kupp, and Robert Woods. Josh Reynolds was an awesome 4. And now you have Simifahoko in Dallas. Dak Prescott is going to use him, and this is somebody I think can play day one as much as they need him to. He's a very, very good wide receiver. He came in my top 10, and I felt like at pick 179, I had a second-round grade on him. I love this pick by the Dallas Cowboys. Moving on at pick 21, we have Washington defensive tackle Levi Onwuzurike, who goes a number pick 141 overall to the Lions. You're going to see the Lions on here a lot. I absolutely loved Brad Holmes' approach in this and Dan Campbell's approach. This draft was excellent from a first-year GM in Brad Holmes, formerly with the Rams. The Lions really hit it out of the park. To me, this pick was great because they already have, a guy in Trey Flowers. They already have Michael Brockers, who they got for the Rams, but now they add my number one defensive tackle in this draft, a guy that I think is going to have immense success as a pass rushing defensive tackle in Levi Onwuzurike. I felt like he could have had an argument to go early first round. They get him here at pick 41, and I'm a big fan of his game, what he brings. I think he's going to be huge for that defense. I know they're really trying to go back to 80s football, running the football, hitting him in the mouth, and playing good defense. This is a good way to start, and I think Onwuzurike is going to have a really, really good career in Detroit. Moving on to pick 20, this is immense upside, and once again, another 6'3" safety that might play linebacker is Hamza Nasruddin from Florida State. He goes at pick 186 to the New York Jets. Look, they already have so much there. I really like what the Jets did. I like what you got out of a lot of these first-year coaches and GMs' first drafts. But what Saleh did is he grabbed this guy to put him with a guy that they got last year in the third round, Ashton Davis. They signed LaMarcus Joyner in the offseason. They also got Saquon Hampton and Marcus May, who they ended up franchise tagging. Now you're going to add Hamza Nasruddin. Whether you play him at linebacker or not, Nasruddin was a big pickup. He shouldn't have been there. He's a lot better than that. Preseason, we're talking about a guy that'll go in the second round. He does not. He falls to them at pick 186. His ball production, I love his ability overall. I think he's very athletic for his size, and I think the Jets are getting an absolute steal. Very similar to their cornerback, Bryce Hall, who they got last year in the 5th round. They're getting another steal here, and Hamza Nasruddin. Moving on, we stay in the AFC East rather. Michigan linebacker Cameron McGrone is headed to the Patriots, and it happened at pick 177. I've said it so many times, people are probably tired of it, but I think Cameron McGrone takes the best angles in the entire draft at the linebacker spot. He's a great tackler. I think he's got a lot of mobility, a lot of range. I think he can be one of the better linebackers in football, especially in that organization. Go into the Patriots and what he brings, they already have that kind of pipeline that they've established with, drafting Michigan talent. You look at, of course, Joshua Uche, and then you look at Chase Winovich. Now they add, of course, McGrone. And I'm just an overall big fan of McGrone. Thought he could have gone 3 rounds earlier. He was a late second round, early third round talent that they got in the 5th. But big fan of him. And that was a huge pick by the Patriots. But let's just stick with the AFC East because a lot of good things happened from that division. I thought they all drafted pretty well. But Miami defensive end Gregory Russo is headed to the Bills, It happened at pick 30. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, Gregory Russo fell down everyone's boards. But the thing I liked about Gregory Russo is the fact that this guy has only been playing the defensive side of the ball. He's only been rushing the passer for 2 to 3 years. He was initially a defensive back / wide receiver that was transferred to the defensive line. Miami in 2019 played him at the zero tech, and they actually really didn't know how to use him, which was surprising. The next year he opts out due to COVID. But if you look at what he did in 2019, having 15.5 sacks and having the second best season arguably of any pass rusher, not including Chase Young, of course, I think that's worth being picked in the first round. A guy that stock slipped, a guy that before he opted out of the season, he was a top 5 pick on a lot of those mock drafts. You have Jerry Hughes, who you got, of course, and on top of that, you go out, you get Mario Addison in free agency, a few seasons ago. You have AJ Epinesa. Now, you also got Carlos Basham. This is a team that is loaded already. The Bills are one of the Super Bowl favorites. So you're grabbing best player available. And of course, listening to Brandon Beane, he made it pretty clear they're looking long-term with this pick. They're not trying to plug and play. And I think that was the right approach. Gregory Russo may not play a ton this season, but this is somebody in the long haul could be a huge add. And if we're talking about that 15.5 sack production, if he's able to bring that to the next level, a guy that's raw but has a ton of length and size and talent, this is going to be a home run pick that you go back and look on Wikipedia when you're going through the draft class and you see Hall of Fame or Pro Bowl next to his name and all the other guys you don't see next to their name. I'm just saying, if he develops, he's going to be lethal, and teams are going to wish that they didn't let the number 30th overall pick, a team that played in the AFC title game, to have a chance at him. At pick 17, we have another pass rusher here, UAB edge defender Jordan Smith, who was drafted at 121 by the Jacksonville Jaguars. You guys know how I feel about Jordan Smith. I am mocked to the Rams for quite a bit. I was a big fan of him, and I still am. When you get that length, that 6'6", 240, 250 pound, pass rusher, I think that's a big thing there. You have K'Lavon Chaisson. You have Josh Allen. You had Jihad Ward, who you signed in free agency. You brought back Dwayne Smoot. And so to me, I think, having a guy like Jordan Smith in the 4th round here, he doesn't have to play right away. I think he could. I think he was very impressive and showed a unique plan of attack as a pass rusher. He has tools in his belt, in his arsenal. He can withstand that. But I do think by having, the depth that they have with Josh Allen and K'Lavon Chaisson and Jihad Ward and Dwayne Smoot, he's not going to have to do a whole lot, and they can really take their time developing him. Look, you have Josh Allen, 1st-round pick in 2019. You have K'Lavon Chaisson, 1st-round pick in 2020. Jihad Ward's a free agent. So you added him. He won't be there too long. And Dwayne Smoot you got in the 3rd round of 2017, who you brought back, but it's a relatively cheap and short-term deal that will give Jordan Smith the opportunity to grow into his position. So again, really like this pick. This is a value pick, and this is what good teams do. The Jaguars had a pretty good draft. They didn't make all the picks I would have made, but I thought they did pretty well, especially in Urban Meyer's first NFL draft. Moving on, we go into the trenches here, and we go to the Chiefs. They selected center Creed Humphrey to bolster their offensive line and complete the transformation of Patrick Mahomes' offensive line that totally failed him in the Super Bowl. When you look at the fact that they added Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney, Austin Blythe, Kyle Long, and Creed Humphrey, you can't help but just shake your head at how talented that is. I mean, that is such a huge unit. When you go out and you get Orlando Brown, that is a tone setter. And the Chiefs literally traded away their 1st-round pick to make that happen. Sure, there were pick switches and all of that, but that was a big-time move there by the Chiefs. They were able to withstand that. They got good value getting Nick Bolton in the 2nd round. They got great value right here, getting Creed Humphrey, who can be your center of the future. And I don't know if Austin Blythe is going to play center and they're going to move Humphrey to guard, but to me, I feel like Creed Humphrey is the perfect plug-and-play center. He'll be there for 12 years and could be a 10-time Pro Bowler. I wouldn't be surprised. He's awesome. I've been a fan of him from the moment this process started. Many of you know that. This is a great pick at pick 63 by the defending AFC champions. And this is a pick that's going back in the direction of saying, hey, we're not done. And look, I may have been way too quick to write off the Chiefs because they did what I didn't expect them to do. A lot of people, including myself, gave them a lot of crap for getting rid of half of their offensive line. But in quick order, they have completely changed that overnight. We'll see how these guys gel, because it's one thing to have it on paper, it's another to see it in game. But getting a guy like Creed Humphrey to go with what you have, that is a scary unit moving forward. So we have at pick 15 here, it is Ohio State running back Trey Sermon, 88th overall after a rare trade with the intra-division rival Rams. Kyle Shanahan and, of course, John Lynch go out and they get my number 3 running back in this draft. I think Trey Sermon is an absolute beast. I think he's a baller, and I think when you look at the top, the first 10-yard split in his 40 time, it really tells you all you need to know. This guy is explosive. He doesn't have the long speed, and they'll make up with that by going out and getting Elijah Mitchell later on in the draft, who was an honorable mention, and they did have a good draft. But Trey Sermon to go with Trey Lance is going to be special. If they give him the opportunity, Trey Sermon can be one of the best running backs, if not the best running back from this draft. Do not sleep on this. The 49ers know what they're doing. You go back and you look at the 49ers and the fact that they've had all of these backs and these stable of running backs. Right now, you have Mostert, you have Trey Sermon, you go out and you get Elijah Mitchell, you have Austin Walter, JaMychal Hasty. To me, I think Raheem Morrison, Trey Sermon, and Elijah Mitchell are going to be their go-to top 3. And I wouldn't be surprised with the way Raheem Mostert has struggled with injury. I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Sermon can stay healthy, that he ends up as the bell cow. Keep in mind, it wasn't very long, but the 49ers have seen what Todd Gurley did with the Rams. Trey Sermon, I've said this for a long time now, the first 25 yards of his run is like Todd Gurley because of that explosiveness. He doesn't have the overall lengthy burst that Gurley did before the arthritis in his knee. So that's a big time pick there. That's my 15th overall pick. At 14, Illinois center Kendrick Green to the Steelers. You go out and you replace Pouncey with Kendrick Green. I love this pick so much. It's unfortunate that Ben Roethlisberger has to play behind a rookie because he is going to have his share of mistakes. But I do think they desperately needed this. And this is somebody that's going to offer some upside. But more importantly, he's athletic. He can get to the second level. He can combo block. And that's going to be something that you're definitely going to want when you have a guy like Najee Harris who will literally live at the second level of the defense. He is going to get to that point, and you're going to want to help. That extra block can be huge. Kendrick Green moves extremely well in space. He's a great athlete, and this was a huge pick. After not picking Creed Humphrey for a tight end, I think they definitely redeemed themselves picking Kendrick Green at 87. Now, at 13, TCU safety Trayvon Merrick, my number 1 safety, went off the board. Pick 43 overall to the Raiders. That's right, the Raiders, they had another great pick. They had another great safety pick. And Trayvon Merrick can literally play all over your secondary. We talked about it a little bit earlier, adding Diablo and what that meant to have, guys like, getting back Carl Joseph and having Jonathan Abram already on the roster. But when you add Trayvon Merrick, this is somebody that has great center field ability. He can be your center fielder. He can play strong safety. He can play free. He can play nickel. I'm sure he could play corner if you asked him to. Very versatile. And to me, he was a no-brainer first-round pick that just somehow fell out of the first round, and the Raiders made do just by sticking where they were at pick 43. Speaking of a team that just kind of waited for a player to fall into their lap, my 12th pick in this, At pick 115 overall, the Cowboys selected Gabriel Cox from LSU, a transfer from North Dakota State. They go out and they get one of the best linebackers in the draft, and really they didn't have to spend much on him. When you look at what Gabriel Cox can do, and you get him in the 5th round after drafting Micah Parsons in the first, having Jalen Smith already, having Leighton Vander Esch, you added Keanu Neal at linebacker, you have Francis Bernard who's shown you something. This was a hell of a pick in the 5th round. Don't be surprised if Gabriel Cox ends up being a Pro Bowl talent. I believe he fell because of a heart issue that may have been another linebacker that we'll talk about in a little bit. But either way, there was something that went awry, as it always does, right before the draft, and there was a flag medically, and it caused him to fall. I would pick a guy like this in the 5th round all day, and I think a lot of teams are going to regret not doing so. Moving on to pick 11 here out of 30, it is Florida State cornerback Asante Samuel Jr., who went to the Chargers at pick 47. This is exactly the type of pick that Brandon Staley should make and was going to make. They went offense with their first pick, but Staley got his toy in the defense. And hear me out when I say this. Asante Samuel, it may be the best fit. Going to the Chargers, he may be the best fit in the entire draft. What he can do, his change of direction, and his overall athleticism allows him to play all the roles that the Rams cornerbacks played in Brandon Staley's defense. When you look at the fact they need a guy to kind of move around, they're making a lot of different things going on with their cover 3 defense and cover 2, and there's a lot of disguises. That means a lot of moving around. You have to think on a dime. You have to make those plays. You have a guy like Troy Hill and his athleticism. You have a guy like, Jalen Ramsey and, Darius Williams. To me, this was a perfect fit, and I'm sure this is a guy that the Rams were targeting at 57. I think this is somebody that they could have drafted, but he goes to Brandon Staley. He stays in LA, but he goes to Brandon Staley. It's going to be a perfect fit for their defense and what they have there. When you look at guys like a Michael Davis, you look at guys like a Chris Harris Jr. that still lives there. You have Nasir Adderley. You have Derwin James. I really like what the Chargers are building there for Brandon Staley. This was a hell of a pick. It fell right outside my top 10, but it was really hard to do that. All right, starting with number 10 in my top 10, Arizona drafted safety James Wiggins out of Cincinnati. Look, James Wiggins was my number 2 safety in this draft, and he went pick 243. He had an ACL tear that I think did scare some teams away, but when you look at his closing ability, when you need a stop, when you need an interception late in a game, this is a guy that can do it for you. When you look at this safety group with Budda Baker, Deontay Thompson, you drafted Jalen Thompson as well in the supplemental draft. You are getting somebody to add to that in the 7th round here that might be better than 2 of those names, but doesn't need to play right away. James Wiggins can work on that ACL, get himself to 100%, and I guarantee you he tested extremely well. The way he is right now, I'm not worried. I think this is going to be a hell of a pick moving forward. I will not be surprised if he ends up being a starter, ends up being better than Deontay Thompson. I'm a big fan of this pick. That's why he fell in the top 10. Or went into the top 10 for me. At pick 9, we're going to go with Alabama wide receiver Jaylen Waddle. He went 6th overall to the Dolphins. I know what you're thinking. A 6th overall pick is one of your top picks in this draft. It's one of your favorites. Yes, because I feel like Miami got the best receiver in the draft at pick 6. I would have picked him in the top 4. So Jaylen Waddle here, not only that, you're getting that connection back with Tua Tagovailoa. He fits exactly what you need because you have that deep threat in Will Fuller, and that's not to say that Jaylen Waddle can't be a deep threat, but you have Will Fuller as a deep threat, and then, of course, you have 2 guys, bigger body that can go up and pluck the ball out of the air. The first one we'll talk about is Devontae Parker, and the second one we'll talk about is Preston Williams, who is coming off a torn ACL. Now you go out and you get Jaylen Waddle, who is literally the jack of all trades. I think he has superstar potential. Think OBJ in his prime with the Giants, okay? This is somebody that if Tua Tagovailoa gets him the ball in space, he is going to be ridiculously hard to bring down. He does an amazing job after the catch. He has great contact balance. He turns into a running back, and he just reminds me of OBJ mixed with, go back to Sammy Watkins coming out of Clemson, the way he ran with the ball like a wide receiver after the catch. That's what you're getting in very physical and lightning quick Jaylen Waddle. Love this pick so very much. It was one of my favorites of the first round. Miami hit it home, and they did it again. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But moving on to pick 8 out of 30, Ohio State linebacker Baron Browning from the Ohio State University. Look, I'm not surprised this pick was made. I'm surprised Vic Fangio passed on Micah Parsons earlier in the draft. But he got Patrick Surtain, which is also an honorable mention because I love that pick as well. Now, I had them getting Micah Parsons because I thought Vic Fangio would like a guy that could wear multiple hats. Now, he gets an opportunity with Baron Browning, a third-round pick that probably should have gone maybe late first, early second. He's going to add versatility there. I think he can rush the passer. He's not going to be, the pass rusher that Micah Parsons was, but he is an extremely elite athlete. And when you look at what they have there, going through Alexander Johnson, they have Josie Jewell. I'm not going to be surprised, as well as having a guy like Justin Sternad, who missed all of last year, who they like. I'm not going to be surprised, though, if Baron Browning ends up starting next to Alexander Johnson sooner than later. This was a monster pick, and this pick was made possible because the Rams, who actually picked a linebacker at pick 103, they actually decided to go 2 picks before Baron Browning. They decided to go with Ernest Jones. And to me, you can say what you will about Ernest Jones out of South Carolina. To me, the pick was a reach. Had they picked Baron Browning here, it still would have been one of my favorites. Browning in the late third is a huge bargain, and Vic Fangio gets another piece to his puzzle. Moving on, pick 7 out of 30, and we have Virginia Tech offensive tackle Christiandarasaw, pick 23 overall by the Vikings. The Vikings just absolutely, they killed this. They needed an offensive tackle because here's the thing. Riley Reiff was gone. So Riley Reiff leaves, and now the Vikings really need to get a left tackle. And Riley Reiff, let's be real here, let's call it like it is, wasn't very good last year to begin with at left tackle. He struggled. He's getting older. So I really like their ability to go out, get their left tackle in Christiandarasaw, who to me is a plug-and-play guy. They also got a plug-and-play guard who's an honorable mention, Wyatt Davis, in the 3rd round. And that's to go with Brian O'Neill, who's a second-rounder in 2018, Ezra Cleveland, who's a 2nd-rounder in 2020, and a first-round talent at center in 2019, and Garrett Bradbury. This is a really good short, in my opinion, this could be one of the better offensive lines in football because there's a lot of talent on here. There's also a lot of raw talent. They took Brian O'Neill, a little bit of a project. They took Ezra Cleveland, a huge project in the pass pro side of things, but he's still a monster in the run game. So is O'Neill and Garrett Bradbury. And so now you go out, you get Davis, who's a plug-and-play guy, and Darasaw. That does not mean plug-and-play does not mean they don't have upside. You're looking at 2 Pro Bowl talents that just entered this offensive line. And now it's going to be interesting with Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook how much the production improves moving forward. This was a hell of a pick here. Again, fell in your lap at 23 after a trade down. Love this pick for the Vikings. And then at pick 6 out of 30, right before he hit the top 5, and this arguably could have made top 5, Terrace Marshall Jr., LSU wide receiver, comes off the board at pick 59 overall, and he went to the Carolina Panthers. This is great for multiple reasons. They lost Curtis Samuel. So the fact is they replaced Curtis Samuel, but they did that before this. They got David Moore from Seattle, who I thought was very underrated and can be your slot guy. DJ Moore can kind of do it all, and Robbie Anderson's your deep threat. But now, instead of that, you can actually make DJ Moore your slot guy and move Terrace Marshall Jr. on the outside with that 6'4" frame. And I think, honestly, this is a first-round talent that just happened to fall into the second round. And once again, we mentioned the Rams. The Rams ended up passing 2 picks earlier on Terrace Marshall Jr. for Tutu Atwell. And so the Panthers weren't going to pick a guy like that. They wanted to get a guy who would fit more on the boundary. And this is a really good option for them to diversify that receiver group. So I love this pick for Carolina. And because of that, that's why it came in at 6th. But now we've hit top 5 guys, and this is big. So we're going to start off number 5. We're going to go back to the AFC East here. The Dolphins selecting Jalen Phillips 18th overall, my number 1 pass rusher, and a guy that I think is an elite talent at the pass rusher spot. No matter where you have him rushing the passer, he's elite. I think this was a home run pick because you traded down and you did all sorts of things with that first pick to get Jaylen Waddle. But what you did with this pick, just staying where you were and taking advantage of Houston, because you basically used the Houston pick to trade around, this was a home run. This was their original pick. They stayed there, and they end up getting the best pass rusher, and they got my top receiver. So I absolutely loved what the Miami Dolphins did. Plus, they kept the Miami man home. So Jalen Phillips is going to be huge for Brian Flores' defense. And they already had production at the edge, position when you look at, the year prior. So I love this pick for Miami, and that's why it ended up coming in the 5th position. At pick 4 out of 30, we had Syracuse cornerback Ifeadimilonmu, and he went 101 overall to the Lions. Oh my Lord. This could have been my favorite pick, to be honest with you. I was bummed that he didn't fall to the Rams at 103, but I don't think they would have picked him anyway. Look, it's not a surprise that the Lions went Ifeadimilonmu. It's not. When you look at what that brings to their defense that they are building, they already added Corn Elder in the slot. They have Amani Oruwariye, a 5th rounder from 2019, and they have first-round pick Jeff Okudah from last year. They also added Quinton Dunbar, who was a free agent from Seattle. So they didn't stop there, and they decided to go out, and they decided to spend a 3rd-round pick on my number 4 overall cornerback, and one of my favorite cornerback prospects in a long time. Keep in mind, favorite doesn't mean the best, but just I love his game so much. Ifeadimilonmu. He shut down Dyami Brown in the UNC Syracuse affair. I thought he did really well against Trevor Lawrence and Clemson. And Melifonwu is now going to the Lions, where he'll play with all those guys. He'll have a great defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, but more importantly, he'll have who the Rams had for the last few years, Aubrey Pleasant, as their defensive backs coach, and he has done a great job developing guys like Troy Hill, like Darius Williams, and I won't be surprised if he ends up developing Ifeadimilonmu and turning him into an absolute star. He's got great size at 6'2", and I think when you look at the fact he tested extremely well, he's a great athlete, this is going to be one of the better picks in this draft. And teams are going to look back, how did I let this guy fall to the 3rd round? Brad Holmes in his first draft, we've already talked about him a little bit, with the Levi Omuzariki pick. Now we're talking about him again, going out in the 3rd round and getting Ifeadimilonmu. Pick 3 out of 30, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and he went 52nd overall to the Browns. This was a fall. I believe this was actually the heart ailment. I really feel for him. He should have been a first-round talent. He's a top 15 pick in my eyes, and medical made him fall. But the Browns already have a pretty stacked roster. And when you add guys like JOK to a very stacked roster, the rich get richer. When you look at their defense, they already had Anthony Walker, who they signed in free agency. They had Sion Takitaki, a 3rd-round pick from 2019. They had Jacob Phillips, a 3rd-round pick from 2020. Now, They add JOK to the mix. They also have Mac Wilson. They added Tony Fields later on. Love what the Browns are doing. They have one of the best teams on paper that I've seen in a long time. And if they put everything together and Baker Mayfield plays well, these are the types of picks that are going to win them a Super Bowl. JOK falling here, his ability in coverage, he can play safety, he can play linebacker. He's going to give them immense upside at the position. As long as that heart issue doesn't become an issue, he is going to be a very, very good player for a long time. He is a Pro Bowl worthy talent that they got to pick 52 overall. Now we're going to finish this up with the last two picks here, and they're both first-round picks. Miss me with the whole, complaining. I'm sorry. They were awesome picks. Look, I wanted to be upset because of who did this, but I've always said, and I actually said this about the Vikings for a while. I said, go up and get Trey Lance. Go up and get Justin Fields. Be that team. And I'm so glad that a team did that and had the kahunas to go up and grab their guy. And that team is the Chicago Bears at pick 2 out of 30, my second favorite pick in the draft, at pick 11. The Bears traded up to get to 11 with the Giants. They were back at 20, and they traded up to 11 to get Justin Fields out of Ohio State, my number 2 quarterback, a guy that can throw with anticipation, an elite athlete, somebody that is going to add that mobility factor to the quarterback position. And to be entirely honest with you, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play this season for Green Bay, he might already be the most talented quarterback in the division, and it might not even be close. So the Bears go out and get him. I'm not going to talk about their approach. I don't care about their approach. They can say they're starting Andy Dalton, Nick Foles all they want. I'm going to talk about the pick. Justin Fields is a killer pick here. You're going out and you're getting a potential superstar. You're going out and you're getting a potential franchise face for a team that desperately needs it. Matt Nagy is putting this team in the playoffs, but he's not doing much with it. Now you get Fields. You have guys like Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, who are good receivers. You just signed Damiere Byrd, and you have guys like Anthony Miller, Riley Ridley, and, of course, Daz Newsome, who you drafted in the 6th round. Now, on top of that, we talked about it a little bit earlier, you added Kahlil Herbert to a running back room that already has Damian Williams, Tariq Cohen, and David Montgomery. You improved the offensive line room by adding Tevin Jenkins to James Daniels, Cody Whitehair, Jermaine Ifedi, and Elijah Wilkinson, who you added Larry Borum. Wouldn't be surprised if he ends up starting. So you improved the offensive line, you got more weapons, and you're preparing for the Justin Fields era. But what is most important about this pick is realizing that defense was never your issue. Chuck Pagano is a good defensive coordinator that also inherited a really good defense coached by Vic Fangio. That's one of the best defenses in football. And that defense doesn't have many holes in it. So now you go out and you fix the offense. And you go out and you get a quarterback. And Justin Fields, to me, should start day one. I don't know if he will, but he should. Anyway, this pick is incredible because it shows the ability to go up and make the selection. It shows the ability to go up and make that tough decision. These types of trades lose or win you jobs. And to be honest with you, you already won the job, so they pretty much only lose you the job. Maybe they get you an extension, but they're very, very high risk in a profession that is very, very cutthroat. So I got to give Ryan Pace credit. I don't do it very often. Got to give him credit on this one. Excellent selection, excellent trade. Go up, get your guy. You still had a solid draft. You can look back on this and think this was definitely the right move. And keep in mind, you waited until pick 11. So instead of the Niners having to give up all that capital, you trade up 9 spots, you get your guy, and you were able to keep most of your selections. So Bears, the second best pick in the draft, Justin Fields. And the number 1 pick in this draft, I hate to break it to you, but it's pretty obvious. It is Oregon offensive tackle Penei Sewell going 7th overall to the Lions. You have a rookie GM who probably desperately wanted to trade down. He probably desperately wanted to make a splash move, impose his will, show what he's made of, but he stayed there. He made the right decision by not making a decision. He didn't go and trade away his pick despite all of the interest probably that was there at 7 for Justin Fields. He didn't. He stayed pat. And by doing that, you just got Jared Goff, a generational talent at left tackle. Penei Sewell is my only generational talent grade I gave out throughout this process. He is phenomenal, and my comparison is Anthony Munoz. I think the Bengals are getting a stellar receiver in Jamar Chase. I do also think that they made a mistake not getting Penei Sewell. Would you rather have Penei Sewell for 10 years or Jamar Chase for 10 years? Well, one is really dictated on if you have the other. So if you have an elite left tackle, but you don't have a receiver, you have an elite left tackle, that's something that you can build around because you build from the inside out, not the outside in. I can't hate on the Bengals for bringing Joe Burrow's guy to Cincy, but coming off an ACL tear and watching the Chargers go out and get Rashawn Slater for their quarterback that didn't get hurt, by the way, that kind of opens up your eyes a little bit. So the Lions going out and getting Penei Sewell was a huge move. They didn't make a move. They literally stayed at pick 7 and made the best pick in the entire draft. There are a lot of picks. This is a tough list, but this is my list. Please let me know your thoughts below. If I missed any of your picks, I'm more than happy to explain why it didn't make the list or why it made an honorable mention list that wasn't actually really released or anything. So I'm happy to talk about all sorts of stuff regarding the draft. It took me a long time to make this top 30. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, this been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of work, and we're not done with draft season. I'm going to try to do draft grades for everybody, but I want to get out this top 30 list. I've been pondering this for a while. I'm glad I was able to get out to you. So you guys let me know, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and please check the links in my description below. If you have any questions, I've been getting a lot of questions about what mic I use, what computer I have. Click those links, go and explore. If you want it, buy it. I highly recommend it. I only recommend things that I've used and I actually like, so no links there will be to something I've never used before. It's all for you guys. You guys let me know, and you guys take care.